EdYoda, the end of your job search and the beginning of your dream career. EdYoda's live sessions are taught by industry experts, giving you hands-on experience and practical knowledge with real projects, not just degrees. EdYoda's industry-recognized certifications will help you stand out in the job market. And that's not all. With EdYoda's exclusive job board featuring 500+ companies, finding your dream job has never been easier. Say goodbye to endless job searching and hello to your dream career with EdYoda. Join EdYoda's student community today and start building your dream career.
So, hi everyone, welcome all. So, in this workshop, what we are going to learn is asynchronous JavaScript. So, first of all, myself. So, my name is Harshit, and I'm working as an SD2 engineer, and I have experience in the full stack. So, today we are going to learn this topic, asynchronous JavaScript, and how to escape the callback help problem. And we will see promises, async await, and all these things. So, before I start, guys, just wanted to tell you one thing. If you are going for JavaScript interview, it doesn't matter like if you are going for React interview or Node.js interview or any interview. If you are going for any JavaScript interview, so whatever I'm right now, like in this workshop, whatever I will tell you, whatever I will teach you, whatever I will discuss with you, all these things will be applied in your interview. So 80% question will be there, like whatever I will tell you today. So I hope you will enjoy this session. So we are going to touch everything. We will be coding along, like I will be showing you like concepts with the example, not just with the theory. So I have a very good example which I used to show to many people. So that example I will show you how you are going to handle asynchronous JavaScript. So let's go step by step. So first thing first, so say okay. So now the topic is saying like, okay, we are going to learn asynchronous JavaScript. You can see here also asynchronous JavaScript. But if you ask me what is JavaScript, okay, if you ask me what is JavaScript, so JavaScript is a synchronous language. So you must be like now feeling what is first of all synchronous or asynchronous. So let's understand this term. First of all, what is asynchronous and synchronous? So every language, okay, it doesn't matter like C, C++, Java, Ruby on Rails, Golang, JavaScript, in every language, the core of that language will be immersed either in the synchronous or in the asynchronous. Okay, so let's first of all understand what is synchronous term. So here synchronous term means the blocking code. Okay, it's mean blocking code. It means what? So let's say like you have a 10 lines of code. So if you want to execute, let's say line number ninth of the code, you need to ensure all the code, all the steps, or all the instruction which were present before the line number line number 9 should be executed. Okay, so if that, let me show you in the real example only. So first of all, just understand one thing here. Synchronous is blocking code. Okay, so blocking code means it will block your execution until you have finished all the previous instruction. That's it. Okay, so by default JavaScript is synchronous. So if I show you the example here, if I go to my terminal, I'm using VS Code now. I have a created folder already. Here I will create a file here. I will say just async.js. Let me write something. Okay, so I will write here console.log, and here I'm writing guys here start. Okay, start. Now if I just print it, let's say one more time in here. Okay, and if I execute this one, so for executing the code in the JavaScript using the VS Code, you can use extension called as code runner. Okay, so I'm using here code runner extension. You can download this code runner extension, so that will allow you to run this JavaScript code. So here is the play button that I can use. So if I hit enter, guys, you can see here the start is getting printed first and this end is getting printed. It means if you want to print this statement line number 3, you need to first of all complete all the previous instruction. So for this line, what is the previous instruction? So there's only one line here on the line number 1. So this is the previous instruction. So it says if you want to execute this line, all lines should be executed before it. Okay, let's see here. If we have a for loop here, it's a I will define a for loop here, and this for loop will actually do nothing. Okay, I will just do here I++, and this loop will do nothing. Okay, I have just this running for loop, and this loop is doing nothing, and it's just like running for this many times. Okay, I do not have any code. But again, if you want to execute this line, this all should be executed. Okay, so if I again run this program, you will see here start, and there's a slight delay in the end. If you closely see, whenever I'm running here, end and start, and there's a slight delay in the end. Let's put two more zero here. Let's have one more zero. If I just run it here, you guys see here start and then it's a delay end, right? So this is code, right? This is blocking code. For this code to execute, actually this all things should be executed if you want to execute this line. So this is guys synchronous code. So by default, not by default, I will say like the core of JavaScript is synchronous only. That's why here it's saying as its base JavaScript language is synchronous. Okay, just let me just, okay. So as it base, guys, if you ask me what is the base of JavaScript and all, so base of JavaScript is actually synchronous. So whatever now you will execute, all these things will be synchronous only. Okay, this should be clear in your mind. Now, second thing is like the beauty. Okay, the beauty of JavaScript is actually how it handles asynchronous programming. So now if you are good with the synchronous part, okay, so just 1 second. So the beauty of JavaScript is guys how it will handle the asynchronous part. Now, let me do one thing. Just a second. Okay, so what I was explaining here is like the beauty of the JavaScript is how it handles actually asynchronous programming. So let's see first of all what is asynchronous. So asynchronous is just opposite of synchronous. So in the synchronous part we are saying okay, it's a blocking code. So now asynchronous will say it's non-blocking code. Non-blocking code means what? So non-blocking code will be mean like okay, if you are executing one thing and other, like let's say like you are executing three things. One thing executed very fast, and second thing is executing but it's taking time. Okay, it's taking let's say 2 or 3 seconds, and you want to execute third line. Okay, so your third line will be not block of your because of your second line. Okay, in second line if it's taking time, what it will do, it will going to do that thing in the background, but it will not stop this execution. Third line will be executed. Okay, so this is the asynchronous part where we do not block our code. Okay, we will not block our code. The blocking of code will be not happening here. Okay, so one operation will not wait for other previous instruction to complete. They will start their like execution even if like old or previous is not executed. But the problem here is JavaScript is the synchronous language. So how we are going to handle these situations? Okay, because JavaScript is synchronous, you cannot like there are ways. Okay, that's why this is a workshop, but there are no convention, there's no core things that you okay. So the first thing first, guys, whenever you are going for any interview or you are learning JavaScript, the most important thing here will be asynchronous part only. Because when you develop the application in React or in the Node or in somewhere, right? So all these things, whatever the like advanced thing will be always fall in this category of asynchronous. So now let's focus on asynchronous part. So here the disclaimer like, okay, introduction to asynchronous JavaScript. So this should be clear in your mind. If anyone asks you what is JavaScript is synchronous or asynchronous, so you will always say JavaScript is synchronous language. You will never say asynchronous, because asynchronous is a behavior that has the JavaScript. There are ways to handle that. But the core of JavaScript is synchronous only. So if the core of the JavaScript, if you ask me, that will be synchronous only. And if you want to read more about this JavaScript, like okay, why it's synchronous, why it is not asynchronous, so I suggest you to go on ECMA script website. There you will see all synchronous code. Okay, all the synchronous documentation and all. So you can go there and you can read the documentation. But again, this is not necessary. If you want to like go deeper, then you can do that. But here the introduction to asynchronous JavaScript. So as I said, like, okay, there are many ways to handle all this asynchronous part in JavaScript and all. So if you ask me what are the different mechanism, okay, and what are the different ways how you are going to handle this asynchronous JavaScript. So mainly guys, three techniques are there. Okay, three techniques are there. I will say in mechanism, techniques, whatever you can say. Three techniques are there. Call as first will be callbacks, second will be promises, and third will be your async await. Okay, using these three things, these are the different mechanism altogether. Using these three things, we are going to learn asynchronous JavaScript. Okay, and we will be keeping one example that will actually help you a lot, like to clear the mindset of what is this callback and how the same example we can use in the promises and the same example in the call async await. Okay, I will not show you the dummy thing. Okay, like do this one and no, I will show you the real example with the callback, the same example with the promises, and the same example with the async await, so that you will get like good picture, like what is the overall of this mechanism. Okay, but before just suggestion here, the mechanism to handle asynchronous JavaScript is your callbacks, promises, and async await. Let's learn all three of these things one by one. Okay, but before guys, but before, like if anything you are going to start, you need to stop and you need to clear the basics, because basics are very important. If you are not clear with the basics, eventually you are not going to learn and all, right? So before that, let's understand two things we have. It is called as JavaScript engine and JavaScript runtime. This is also very, very important. Okay, obviously, like this JavaScript runtime is like very important. But before that, let's try to also learn what is the JavaScript engine. So JavaScript engine is the, again, so whenever I'm saying the core of the JavaScript, so the core of guys JavaScript, like how JavaScript handles your code, or how JavaScript will execute your code, will be depend on this engine. Okay, this engine will actually be responsible to execute your core JavaScript. I'm always saying here core JavaScript. So for that you will need this engine, JavaScript engine. What is inside the JavaScript engine? So there are many things which are inside the JavaScript engine, like there are parser, there are compilers, there are interpreters, all these things are there. But there are garbage collectors are also there, but they are like, you do not need to understand much about that, because you already know, like what is compiler, interpreter, and all these things. But here are two important thing here in the JavaScript engine. Is first one is the memory heap, and second is the call stack. Okay, obviously other languages also have this memory heap and call stack, but let's understand in this perspective of JavaScript, what is this memory heap and call stack. So as I said here, JavaScript engine will be responsible to execute your code. So JavaScript engine will be responsible to execute your code. Okay, that thing should be clear. Now here I said, okay, memory heap is the one part here, one thing is here, and call stack is the another thing. You have different things also here. I'm not going to like talk much about that, like compiler, interpreter, garbage collector, parser, and all these things. But yeah, these are the two important things which you need to understand if you want to understand actually the asynchronous programming and all. So what are these things? So this thing is, first one is the memory heap, second is the call stack. Now let's see the definition of the memory heap, and not just a definition, just a quick thing about the memory heap and call stack. So memory heap is just a portion of engine memory where objects, variable, function, closures are stored. So this should be very clear to you, like whatever you will create eventually in the program, what you create some kind of variables, you create some kind of functions, you create some kind of objects, right? So all these things, if you create, there should be a space to capture them or to store them. So this is the memory heap. This is the area. This is the portion where we have in the engine, which we will use to store our variables, functions, objects, and all these things. Okay, and it also manages the allocation and deallocation of memory during the program. So if you create a variable, it allocates a memory. If you, let's say, if you are just clear your variable, you are not now you do not need that variable, so it will just deallocate the memory. So all these things like managing of memory will be taken care of here, like in this portion of a memory heap. So this is just a place to store your variables, function, and all these things. Now, second thing is, guys, very interesting, call stack. And obviously this is not just in JavaScript, other languages are also having this call stack and all. So the call stack keeps a track of current executing function and their context. Okay, this is very important line for this workshop. What this line is saying is, in JavaScript, everything happens in the execution context. If you know JavaScript execution code, so let me revise it for you. So in JavaScript, guys, if you want to execute any piece of code, there will be two phases. The first phase will be memory phase. Second phase will be actually your code execution phase. So in memory phase, actually what you do is you just declare your functions and you declare your variables. Okay, the first thing. The first phase will be, in the first phase, you declare your functions, you declare your variables and this objects and all. Second thing will be actually your code execution phase. So once the declaration phase and in like declaration phase is over in the memory phase, now you are going to actually do the code execution phase in the second phase. And all this phase, okay, first phase and second phase actually happens in the execution context. Okay, execution context is something like whenever JavaScript start reading your code, it will create execution context and it will do the things like memory phase and this code execution phase, first phase and second phase in your execution context only. Okay, this should be clear. Now, what happens if you call a function? So if you call a function, let's say if you're calling a function and doing something, so if you call a function, a brand new execution context will be created for that function. And again, this two phase, like memory phase and this code execution will be happening for that function also. So if you have written just like, let's say on the global scope, if you come to here we have written only this console.line lines and the for loop and this one. So here you do not see any function is there, right? There's no function here. So there will be only global execution context. So there's something called as global execution context and something called as functional execution context. So if there's no function, all these things will be happening in the global execution context only. If you create a function, if you call that function, then again a brand new functional execution context will be created. And now in this functional execution context, you have this first phase, second phase. So let me keep on writing here also. So what here I'm saying is, like in JavaScript, like you have two phases. Okay, you have here two phases. First phase will be what? So first phase will be your memory phase. Okay, I will write it here also. Memory phase will be there. Now second will be your code execution phase. Okay, code execution phase. Always remember what will happen is in this memory execution phase. So here you will actually whatever you have declared, right? Like whatever you have declared your variables function. So variables will get a space, your functions will get in a space. So all this will be getting in the space in the first phase of your memory. Okay, now in the second phase, guys, what will happen here is the code execution phase is start. Okay, and this I'm talking about for the global execution context. So global execution context also called as GEC. Okay, G stands for global, and this is execution, and this is context. And in case of if you are calling a function, okay, in case if you are calling a function, what will happen? So if you call a function here, a brand new execution context EC will be created. Okay, and same thing will be happening, guys, there also. The memory phase and code execution phase will happen there also. So this thing should be clear in your head, right? So this is the thing which we have in the call stack, and call stack is actually now will responsible to handle all this execution context. So whosoever first execution context will be so if you know stack, so stack, what is a stack? So LIFO, right? Last in, first out. So whatever the value you put it in the last, you will be going to pick at the first. So this is the stack. So all this execution context will be handled, will be managed in this call stack only. So it allows the engine to manage function calls and track the order of execution and handle the function return also. So as I said, like this function call stack will be now responsible to handle all these things: functional execution context, when they are called, what to do next. If one execution context is over, let's execute another execution context. So this all things will be keep on track by this call stack. Okay. So these are the two important things: memory heap and call stack, which are the part of this your JS engine, JavaScript engine. And just a quick additional knowledge for you. So in Chrome, okay, in Google Chrome, Google Chrome has a JavaScript engine called as V8 engine. Okay, so that we use. Okay, if you do not know, just keep on knowledge for you. Like a V8 engine in the Google Chrome that we use for this JS engine in the Chrome, Google Chrome. There are two things, guys, right? A memory heap and call stack. Now, if you again see, now there's a very good topic here, JavaScript runtime. Okay, runtime. I'm not here engine. Okay, I have written it here wrongly. It's just a runtime. Okay, it's not engine. Okay, I can just I have just written it wrongly, but just only consider, guys, JavaScript runtime. Now, have you guys heard of term called as Node.js? Okay, have you heard of this term called as Node.js? So there's a very myth around the industry. Like, okay, so if someone asks you what is Node.js, so some people will say, okay, it's a library, it's a framework, it's a language, whatever, whatnot. But actually, guys, Node.js is a JavaScript runtime. Okay, JavaScript runtime. Node.js is no library. It's not a framework. It's not a language. It's a runtime. JavaScript runtime. Now let's understand what is the JavaScript runtime. As I said, guys, JavaScript is synchronous language. Okay, JavaScript is a synchronous language. And just being a synchronous language, you cannot do much things. This is very clear to you. Like just a synchronous language, if you are synchronous language, you are a blocking code execution, you are doing a blocking code execution. Actually, you cannot do much things. Okay. So this is the kind of one drawback with the synchronous language. But the beauty of JavaScript is like it accepts other things as well. It accepts there's something called as runtime that we are learning right now also. There's something called as runtime which actually gives the power to this JavaScript. Now JavaScript is like you can just imagine like, okay, it's a normal like man. If it has the runtime power, now it's a superman. Okay, it's if it has the power of runtime, then it's a superman. So JavaScript is just a command man, but when the runtime power will given to the JavaScript, it becomes actually Superman. So now, what is inside the runtime? Okay, what is inside the runtime? So if you see this picture here, this picture in the gray border, there's a JS heap memory and call stack. Okay, so if you remember, guys, the last slide, if I open the last slide, this engine is there in the runtime as well. Okay, so JS in the JS runtime, again repeating, this engine is not there. It is wrongly written by me. So this runtime has this border, gray border. This is your JS engine, and this is there. Okay, this is there with you. Okay, in runtime also you have JavaScript engine. So this thing should be clear. JavaScript runtime is also having the same engine. Okay, so whatever here you have learned all this memory heap and call stack, this is also there in your runtime. Okay, this is also there in the runtime. Plus, okay, this is the first thing. Plus, you have something called as web APIs also. You have something called as callback queue also, and there's something called as event loop also, which you have in the JS engine. Now you are, let me draw it here. Okay, let me draw it here. So what here I will do is like, okay, let me create a JavaScript runtime. Okay, I will be creating here. I will be creating here JavaScript runtime, JS runtime. So this is your guys your runtime. Okay, this is your runtime. Now what I said, like this will be your engine. There will be engine here, and engine will what the engine will contain. So engine will contain what is your. It will be having a memory heap. This is your heap. I can write here HEAP, heap is there. Now you have this call stack also. This is your stack. Okay, call stack. Now you have something called as here, guys, web APIs. Okay, this is very important. You have something called as here what? So I can write it in the next line here. So this is something called as web APIs. Now there's something called as here callback queue. There's something called as here callback queue. And there's very important thing, very important thing which we have is here, guys. Let me draw in another. Let's green should be good. So we have something called as here, guys, event loop. Okay, this is actually the masterpiece of in the runtime. We have something called as event loop, and this is this is your call stack. I can write it here also. This is your call stack, and this is your memory heap. Okay, and if you ask this here, so this is actually your what? This is actually your JS engine. Okay, so you have so many things here. The first thing is your JS engine. So JS engine actually is this thing here. Now you have this here heap. Okay, this is your actually this is your heap. So this is your heap. Now you have this stack also. So this is your stack. Now you have this called as something called as web page that we will see in a bit. This is called as callback queue. This is callback queue, and there's something called as here guys event loop also. This is the overall this is the overall picture of your JS runtime. Okay, this is your picture of your JS runtime. Let's see here. Now, if I go back, guys, what is inside the JS engine? So JavaScript engine is there. Something called as web APIs are there. Okay. If I open this one here in close to this one here, if I open here, there's something called as web APIs. So if you see here, this is the web APIs, right? What is this web APIs? So I must assume like you have run the JavaScript piece of code in your browser as well sometime in your life. So guys, have you seen if you open your developers tool, you can write JavaScript there also. You can write like something called as set timeout, set interval, fetch APIs, all these things, right? Even you can write here DOM thing, right? DOM is also very important. If I open if I open this one here, there's something called as DOM, there's something called as XHR, XML HTTP request, set time, all these things were there. Where are they? Like, are they core JavaScript? Are they are they part of JavaScript? So no, they are not the part of JavaScript. They are web APIs, which is given by the browser. Okay. So right now we are learning, let's say the browser runtime. So the browser runtime has with this feature like DOM, XHR, set timeout, these are the feature. So these are the web APIs given by the browser runtime. If I open this slide again here, you can see web APIs, browser runtime. Same guys, we have the node runtime as well. So in the node runtime also, there will be separate APIs. Okay, in the node also we have a separate APIs which will be more responsible for the backend works. So this browser has that DOM APIs, but in Node, because it will be we will be using for the backend works and all. So there you do not need DOM thing, right? So maybe your Node.js will not have a DOM, or maybe it will have, right? So but it will depend on what is your requirement. Okay. So the runtime also captures all the things which will be the requirement for their runtime. So this browser will have that requirement of DOM and all. So that's why DOM is there. But in the Node.js, maybe DOM is not necessary. So it will be not be there in the DOM. Okay. So these are the web APIs which is given by the browser runtime. And if you know, okay, DOM is there, like document object model, they will be handling requests like you can use this fetch API, AJAX request, XHR, and all these things. You have Canvas also in the browser runtime. You have this local storage, session storage, all these things are the part of your browser runtime. They are not core JavaScript. Again, repeating, if someone asks you what is local storage, so is the local storage part of your JavaScript? No, it's not a part of JavaScript. It's a part of runtime. And since we use a JavaScript runtime, that's why we are able to access this local storage, DOM, and all these things. But it's not a part of core JavaScript. Okay. Then again, if you know, events handlers are there, like all these things are there. So these are the guys web APIs which will be given by the browser. Okay, browser runtime. These are the APIs. Now let's understand there's something called as callback queue. Okay, so normal queue, what is queue first of all? So queue is just a data structure first of all, and it's FIFO, FIFO. It's saying like first in, first out. So if you have seen, okay, the line of ATM, okay, so if the line of ATM, whosoever is standing at first, they will get into the ATM first, right? Or they will go to the ATM machine first. So you will stand in a queue, and whosoever is like standing in the first, they will get the things first. This is the first in, first out thing. First in, first out thing. This is the queue. This callback is very, very important. I will tell you in just a minute with the code, but let's understand this event loop first. Okay, this event loop. So event loop actually, guys, is the masterpiece of your JavaScript runtime. Okay, if you able to understand this event loop, actually you will be going to learn everything. So what is the first of all this event loop? So event loop is a critical part of JavaScript runtime. This is the very critical part of your JavaScript runtime. So overall, if you remember the JavaScript runtime, if I open again this one here, so this is the critical part of your JavaScript runtime, event loop. Why we are saying it's a very critical? And guys, event loop is present in the web browser runtime also, and it's present in the Node.js runtime also. As I said, Node.js is nothing but just a runtime. Okay, it's just a runtime. So in Node.js also you have this event loop. Okay, it's not like you only have this in the web browser. You have this in the Node.js as well. It ensure that this operation, okay, whatever the operation you are actually you are executing in JavaScript, are processed efficiently and in the correct order. This is also very important. So whatever you are executing, all these things should be like, okay, they are executed efficiently or not, they are actually executing in correct. All things should be handled by this event. Okay. Now, if you guys remember, as I said here, this is the kind of callback queue and all, right? This is the callback queue and all. Now let's write code here. Okay, we have this third line is pending, I know, but before that, I want to write now some code. Okay, I will write some code here. Okay, now as I said, like we always use some kind of runtime. Okay, as I said here, we always use some kind of runtime. Just a minute. Okay, we always guys use some kind of runtime. Okay, so right now also, if you install this code runner and all, you also need to install Node.js and also. Right now we are using the Node.js runtime. Okay, in the browser also you can write a code of JavaScript, but right now I'm just using the uh, Node.js runtime. Now, since I'm using the Node.js runtime, what I can do is I can use the APIs from the Node.js runtime. So there's a APIs guys called as set timeout. Okay, there's an API called as set timeout. And what is the set timeout? So set timeout generally takes a function and a timer. So I will just do here 2000 millisecond, and here I will write here inside set timeout. I will just write a statement here, console.log. Set timeout is there, so it will accept two things here. First is the function, and this is the timer. So function will be executed after this 2 seconds. And now I have this console.log. So if you will see this code, and you can guess maybe like, okay, you will here do a start, and then you will wait for 2 seconds, and then you will execute this line, and then you will do this end statement. This may be your thought. So this line will be first printed, this line will be second printed, and this will be your end printed. This you can think of. So if I run this code, you guys can see here, start is getting printed, end is getting printed. After 2 seconds, guys, inside set timeout is getting printed. So right now, this is getting printed at the last after 2 seconds. Why this is happening? Is this now synchronous code, or is this now asynchronous code? So guys, now this is your asynchronous code. This is your asynchronous code, because you are not actually, for executing this line, actually you are not waiting for this piece of code should be executed first. You are not waiting. So now it's non-blocking code. That's why I'm saying it's a now asynchronous code. But how these codes are going to work and how they are working and all. So let's see here. If you guys remember this slide here, okay, if you guys remember this slide here, if I go back again here, JavaScript engine is there, no problem in that part. Now this, you have this web APIs. I'm using this set timeout property right now, right? I'm using this set timeout property right now. Okay, and now I can move this is here. Okay, now this is guys your set timeout property I'm using here. Now what will happen? What will happen? Actually, this is not your part of your core JavaScript. This is not your part of your core JavaScript. So when JS engine starts reading its code, what it will do, it will execute this line. This line should be executed fine. Then it says set timeout and function and all. Core JavaScript will understand, like, I do not know what is this code, because this is not my my core code, right? So now it will ask the web APIs. It will ask web APIs, because you are using Node.js runtime. You can use browser runtime also. So since you are using Node runtime, it will ask web APIs, hey web APIs, do you know what is this set timeout? Here it can go and it can ask, this engine can ask web APIs, do you know what is set timeout? Because I do not know, because this is not my code. So web APIs will say, yes, this I know what is the set timeout. This is my APIs which user has written. So let me handle this code. So what will this engine will do? This code will be just transferred to this web APIs. Whatever here you have written, this code will be transferred to this web APIs. Now web APIs will be executing. Okay, web APIs know how to handle. So it will do the, okay, after 2 second, like after 2 second, I want to execute this function. But guys, always remember, all the function execution and all these things will be happening in the call stack only. And call stack is only present in your Java engine. So once the web APIs will handle, okay, after 2 second, it will say, okay, now this function is ready to work. This function, I mean, there's a this function. It set timeout, code of set timeout will say after 2 second, this code will be working fine. This code we want to execute. But while web APIs is doing their execution after 2 second and all, now your JS engine will not wait. JS engine will not wait. JS engine will say, I will not wait for you. I will not wait for you, and I will not keep the other code block. What I will do, I will go with the next code. So that's why this code is executing here, Ind is executing. Now here it will say, okay, now are you done with executing all your next code? It will say, yeah, now I am done with the next code. So now if you see here, web APIs will say, okay, like now execute my code that like in that console log, like inside set timeout. Now JS engine will say, no, I will not execute your code normally. Now I cannot execute your code normally. You do not you will come with a process. You will not come with the normal process. What is the process I'm saying here? So web APIs will, JS engine will say, no, I cannot execute your code normally. So now guys, event loop is the masterpiece here. Event loop will say, because this event loop is important here to execute and all this order or executing all these things in a manner. So event loop will say, now doesn't matter like, okay, after 2 seconds you are saying, okay, I want to execute or not, but event loop will say, hey, set timeout function, I will execute you, but with not the normal process. Now you will be not going to execute with the normal process. What process you need to follow is, you need to come to this callback queue first. You need to come to this callback queue first. If you have executed like after 2 seconds, you are saying like, okay, I'm done, like I can execute. This code should be come to this callback queue first. Okay, the code should be come to the callback queue first. Now event loop is now working. Okay, event loop is like, actually event loop continuously works. Okay, continuously it works. Now event loop is working and it will check, do we have something in call stack to execute? Do we have something else to execute? Now if you see here, this line is still this line is still pending. This line is still pending. So event loop will say, and here this function is sitting. This function is sitting and it's saying, okay, I want to execute, I want to execute. But event loop will say, no, no, you cannot execute, because this last line is executing right now. So this last line will execute first, and then only it will pick something from the callback queue, and then it will bring to the call stack. Okay, this is the whole process goes. If you read now the third line here, the condition to start executing the task from the call stack queue. This condition to start executing the task from callback queue. So as I said, when you do set timeout after 2 seconds, the function will be transferred to web APIs. Now after 2 seconds, your function, that function will come to your callback queue. And now this event loop will decide when this function should execute. Now event loop is responsible to tell when this function will be executed. And when this function will be executed, so what is the condition to start executing the code, the task from the callback queue? The first condition, guys, is call stack should be empty. Okay, call stack should be empty. So if you have something in your call stack, if I go back here, if you have something in the call stack, it means like if something is actually executing, you will not going to take the thing from the task and bring to the stack. No, what you will do, you will wait here. You will wait till the call stack is empty. And second point here is the execution of global scope, global scope code should be completed. There should be no any code which are left in the global scope. These two conditions should be met to bring the task from the callback queue to your call stack. Now let's draw this here in the here. I will draw it here very nicely. I can just edit it. Let's say Okay, I will. Oh, or let me clear all the thing, right? I can clear all the page. Okay, let me draw from the scratch. So first of all, we have this JavaScript engine. Let me make it very big here. JavaScript engine is there. Now you have this call stack. Okay, I will not draw the now the memory heap because memory heap is right now not important. The call stack is there here. So what is this? So this is the call stack. Now what is this? So this is your web API. I will make here is this is your web API. Here actually the code of the set timeout and all these things are there. Now here you have this callback queue. This is actually your callback queue, and here is your that event loop. Okay. Now if I name it here very quickly, so this is your what? So this is your web API. This is your actually your callback queue. This is your actually your event loop, and this is your call stack. Now what will happen here, guys, is the first console.line will come to this call stack. Okay, first console.line will come to this call stack, and let's select this is your output screen. This is your output screen. So if the first line, the line number 1 will come here, so line number 1, if it come to here, it will print that start, right? The message was a start, so start is getting printed. Now when this second line will come to here, when the second line will come to here, and this is done. So if it's done from the call stack, now you can just delete it. Okay. Now when this line number 2 comes to your call stack, because your JS engine doesn't know what is this set timeout and all this line number second, it will just transfer this code to this set web API, because here you have the code for set timeout to execute and all. Okay. Now, once the code is transferred to here, your call stack is not going to wait. Okay, your event loop will not wait and all. So what it will do, it will just remove this code here, and the third line will come to here. Okay, third line will come to here, and third line is what? So line number 3 is actually, let's say like this is your executing piece of code. This is executing. Now let's say like, okay, this is happened like 200 seconds is happened, and as I said here, now if 200 seconds has happened, now this need to come to this call stack. Now the function, right? This function I'm saying here, this function is there here. Okay, and with the console log, like, okay, there's a function here. I can write here function is there with you, and now it's saying it is keep on checking with the event loop. Oh, can I go to the call myself and execute myself? But this will say no, you cannot execute, because line number 3 is getting executed. This will keep on rejecting it. It will execute this function only in the call stack when this is line also is done. Now let's assume here, okay, I guess I have a internet issue or what. Okay, I guess my internet is good now. So what will happen, guys, here is your line number 3 will be done here. So line number 3 is done. And now here you have printed here what? Here you have printed your end message also printed here. End message also printed here. Now, if you clearly see that your call stack is empty now. Your call stack is empty. And now if this function will ask with the event loop, can I go to your call stack and execute myself? So event loop will say yes. Now you can go and you can execute. So it will come to here. And what the function will do? The function is actually just printing here inside something, right? Inside set timeout and all. So that's why, guys, how event loop handles all these things. So event loop will check first of all if the call stack is empty or not. So if this is empty, then only it will pull the things to here. It will start pulling the things from here to here. If this is empty, okay, this is empty. That's why it will pull it here. Let me do one thing here. Even if I write, guys, here 0 second, okay, I'm not waiting for any second. I'm just writing here 0 second. And if I run this code here, if I clear and if I run this code again, you guys will feel again it's start, end, and set timeout is printing here. Why? Because it doesn't matter like a 0 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, and whatever or whatnot. Even if it is 0 second only, you will still going to wait for your normal process. You will not come to your call stack directly. What you need to follow is you need to come to your callback queue first. You need to come to your callback queue first, and then you will keep on asking your event loop. This is your event loop. You will keep on asking your event loop, can I come to your call stack and can I execute my function? call stack will say no, because this global piece of code is not done. So you need, we will complete the global execution code first, then only you will come to here. That's why here we have one line left. So that this is the line is getting printed. That's why it is coming here and all. Okay. So this is the guys process of your event loop. Just remember this one here. The condition to start executing the task from callback queue will be call stack should be empty and execution of the global scope of code should be completed. This should be clear in your head. Okay. Now, if you understand the code thing, like, okay, how event loop is working, how this web APIs are there, how this callback queues are there. Now let's try to understand actual that callback promises and async await using this download song and upload to drive example. This is very good example. I just wanted to say. So in this example, what we are going to do is we will be keeping this example download song, upload to drive example for callback understanding also, for promise understanding also, and for async await understanding also. That the same thing example we are going to keep for all this promise and async. Okay. Now, if you see here, what we are going to do here is we will be downloading a song, then we will write to a file, then we will upload that song or upload this file to some drive or somewhere. But how we are going to download how we are going to download this file, and how you are going to write some file, and how to upload this file. Just guys, we will not download the song like actual. All right, we will not download the song actual. What we are here going to do is we want to mimic the thing. Okay, we want to assume like, okay, we are downloading the song. So downloading song can take some time, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, it can take some time. So what here we will do, we will not actually download the song. We will just say a message, okay, download started, downloading song started, and then wait for 2 seconds. And then we will say, okay, song is downloaded. We will see this thing. Same way, we will say here writing to file is started. We will wait for 2-3 seconds, and then we will say writing is done. Now the same thing here we will do. Okay, uploading that song file is started, and then this like wait for 2 or 3 seconds, and then we will say uploading is done. We do not want to actually learn, okay, how to download and how to write and how to upload. This is not the task. The task is here to understand how you will write your callbacks, how you will write your promises, and how you are actually going to write your async await thing using this example. So let's write the code here. Okay, let's write the code. Okay, so first thing guys, first is we are going to see how you will be writing this example. Download song, upload to write a song, and then upload to a song is using your this part. Just a quick here, just a revise for you. So what is callback? So callback is a function passed to another function as an argument. As an argument, this is the very important thing here. Is an argument which is then invoked outside the outer function to complete some future task. Okay, so what are these things, guys? So what are these things? So it will be a function which will be passed to another function as an argument. You will be passing a function as an argument which will be invoked inside the outer function to complete some future task. So let's write the code and let's understand here. So what here I will do is I will just prepare a file. I will say here 2.callback.js. Okay, first let me write the code to download a song. So I will write here, like let's say here, I will write here download song. I will take a song name here. Someone will give me the song name. Here I will say a message here, let's say downloading started. I will say here, I just a message here, downloading started. Then what I will do, I will just wait for a few seconds. So set timeout is there. Now you have good understanding what is set timeout and all. I will wait for 2 seconds. Okay, let's assume like after 2 seconds my song is downloaded. And here I will say what? Here I will say, here, let's say CLG is like downloading completed. Okay. Okay, downloading completed. Now where the song name. So here I will say what is, I will here say song is equal to song name plus .mp3. I'm just adding something here, .mp3. Now whatever the song is, whatever the song name you are giving it, plus dot mp3, that will be your song. And here I will say song downloading completed, and song I will say here is, I will just say a message here. Let's say song is your song. Okay, this is a song which you have downloaded. Now let's try to call this download song here, and let's pass some song name. So I will just pass here, let's say excuses. Okay, now if you just guys run this code here, what will happen? Downloading started. After 2 seconds, it's saying downloading completed, and this is your song name. This is run. Now here you can change anything. If you are saying, let's say here rolling. Okay, song downloading started, song downloading completed, song, this is the song. So this is the thing guys, is done. Downloading is completed, right? We are not going to focus on how to download, because this is not the that we are learning. Now let's try to understand here. What are the example here I'm trying to say is, I want to do guys these things in the parallel. I want to do some future task after downloading song. So if you read here guys, callback, if you remember guys, the last sentence here, you will pass a function to a function as an argument, which will be then invoked inside the outer function to complete some future task. So here what I trying to say is, after downloading the song, I want to write that song in some file, let's say like some txt document and all. So I want to just write that same file to this write to some file, and then when I will write the file, I will just upload this file to my drive. So there's a kind of parallel, there's a series of work that I want to do, and all this series of work will be done after something is done. So if you want to do this write to file, for writing to file to work, this download song should be completed. If you want to upload to drive, these two steps should be done before. So that is the thing I want to do. So okay, so if I come to here, now your song is guys here, it's loaded. Okay, you can see here excuses, or let's say write it here like excuses, your song is excuses.mp3 is ready with you. Now I want to do something. So what I want is, I want to define another function here. I will say here what, write to file. Okay, and here I will say some message. I will say here writing to file started. Okay, now here again, because writing can also take some time, so here I'll set timeout. I will function here is there, and here I will say, let's assume like after 1 second you have written your file, and here I will say message. I will just say message like, okay, writing to file completed, and here is your file name. So what is the file name? So here you will give me the song, and here what I will do is, I will make let's say song file name equal to song plus, I will just say here txt. Okay, now if you guys just print this song file name here, what will happen? Now see here. Now what you are doing, you are calling this download function, download song example. So this will be done here, but I want guys, I want to write to this file with this song. Okay, so what the song? So if you guys run this program here, downloading started. Now downloading completed, song is excuses.mp3. So this song excuses.mp3 I want to execute in this write file. I want to write this excuses.mp3 to this file. So what here I will do is, I can call, okay, you can ask me like, okay, I can call this write to file here also. I can call this write to file. I can write here write to file, but here I want to give guys here what the result here what I have given. So instead of doing this thing here guys, in this download function, I will pass a callback. And here what I will say is, if you're passing a callback, let's grab in this parameter also. So I will say here, let's say callback only. There's a callback there. And if I'm passing a function, what I want to do is, I want to execute this function. So here you will execute this function and with this song name. Okay, so right now I'm executing here. I'm calling this callback here. So this function will be executed. So in this code, what here I will do, I will just write here write to file. And in this callback, you are passing this song. So here also, let's grab this song and let's pass it here also. Now this is done. Now what you are doing, once you call this download song, this function will be called and you will print this message. Then you will wait for this 2 seconds. After that, you will download the song with .mp3. You will console.log message, and then you call this callback. So if you call this callback, actually you will be calling this function. And if you see this function, guys, actually this write to file is actually calling this function. So now you will say this file name, and this will be your file name and .txt. Let's try to run this code. Now if I run it again, let's try to bring it here and let's try to run this code. If you see guys here, downloading started, downloading completed song excuses.mp3, writing to file started, and writing to file completed, and excuses.mp3. So write and guys, this two operation are done, right? This downloading song is also completed and writing to a file is also completed. So here we are, how we are doing. We are passing actually a callback, and then we are. Now the next thing is, guys, we want to upload this code to Drive. So let's write a code similar to this write to file and all. I will just copy this function here. I will come to here and I will write here upload file to Drive. Okay, and here I will, what I message I will say is, I will say here uploading uploading to Drive started. I will just say message uploading to Drive started after, let's say, 3 seconds, because uploading can take some time. After, and this will take what? So this will take a song file name. After, guys, 3 seconds, I will say here URL is there, because after uploading there will be some URL. So I will just assume like, okay, https://www dot, and I will say, let's say drive.com/harshit71/ here I will say what? I will say this one message here. Now here I will say what? I will say here uploading to Drive completed. And this will be your URL. So this will be your URL. I will say here URL is this one. Now this is the thing is, now where we will call this upload Drive function? This is the main question here. So once you have downloaded the function, you have written the function. Now when you will call this upload to Drive function, so we will call this, guys, upload Drive function when this write to file is completed. So I will call actually this upload to Drive function from here. So how I will call this function is, let me pass again callback here. I will pass this callback here. And if you are passing a callback here, so you need to accept, so you have to accept this callback. Now you will call this callback with this song file name. This is getting passed. Now if you're calling this callback here, so this will be come to here. So let's accept this file name also here. And now finally call this here upload to Drive and pass this file name here. Okay, now let's see, guys, in the code here whether it's working or not. I will run this code here. Downloading started, downloading file completed excuses.mp3, writing to file started, writing to file is completed excuses.mp3.txt, uploading to Drive started, and uploading to Drive completed, and this is your, guys, URL. So this all things are working. Okay, this all things are working. This is your download function, this is your write function, and this is your upload function. And here we are doing. And how we are doing? So on every function, the next future task we are passing as a callback. So if you again remember your definition, so actually callback you pass to a function as an argument to do some future task. So I want to do some future task of these things to my download function. Okay, I want, okay, after downloading song should be completed, I want to do these things. After writing song is done, I want to do this upload file things. Now, guys, here's the problem here. Let me drink water first. The problem here, guys, is callback hell. Okay. So if you guys see here, we have just done 3 things. Okay, we have just done 3 things, and code is now looking very ugly. Okay, I can bet you like this code is looking really ugly. Okay, so that's why, guys, there's a term called as callback hell. So what is this callback hell? So if you read this one here, so callback hell is essentially nested callbacks stacked below one another, forming a pyramid structure. So if you guys see here, this is getting a pyramid structure, right? This is, so if you pass, let's say like you have 3, 4 or 10 function. So eventually this will look like a pyramid function. This is also getting a shape of pyramid, like a triangle kind of shape. But if you keep on passing, let's say here I'm also passing a function. Let's pass here a function and let's say some message here. And again here, if you call someone, let's say if you do, oh, not here, I mean, okay, if you pass this, guys, let's say here, if you define something, let's say here, if here again you have a function here, what will happen? Eventually it will be looking really ugly, and that is, guys, called as callback hell. You do see in every function call I'm actually passing a callback every. So if you have, let's say like 10 or 20, let me search that image of callback hell also, callback hell photo. Okay, if I guys show you this one here, you guys can see this one here. This is your callback hell. See, this is like how this will looking like. So this will be getting shape. See here, if it has 6 functions, so this is how it will looking like. So right now we only have these 3 functions, so that's why it's looking not that ugly. But believe me, after some time when you keep on defining the other things, this will be looking very ugly. So what is the option then? So how to avoid this callback hell and all? So actually, to avoid callback hell, you have lots of options. You can use async await also. This is the guide. Async await is the best thing. But before I show you async await and all, there's something called as promises. Okay, there's something called as promise, and this is the promise. Like, okay, it's a normal promise in our daily life. Also, we make a promise like, okay, I make a promise like I will do this thing. So this is also promise in the JavaScript. In promise is a special object in JavaScript. It's act like a placeholder for some future task. Okay, so here in the callback also, you were passing some function and you are saying do these things in the future. So this promises also you can do, or you can use this promise example also to do something in the future, right? You can do this thing. You can just it's a placeholder. It's just a place which you will receive in your future. There will be some value that you will receive in the future. But the guys, best point of promises is actually there's something called as status in the promise. There is something called as a status in the promises. So status can be pending, fulfill, and rejected. So let me show you the code how you will define a promise and how you will going to create a promise and how you will consume the promise. So let me repeat it again. It's a special object in the JS. It acts like a placeholder for some future task. It has some property called as the status, which will be pending. Either it can be fulfilled, either it can be rejected. So before we learn, guys, how to make a promise with this example, I want to write some kind of dummy example, dummy promises to you, and then I will explain you. So if you want to literally learn promises, so you need to understand 2 things. In promise, guys, either you will be creating a promise or either you will be consuming a promise. So let's see first how you will be creating a promise. So let's see here. So I will be closing this callback hell. So this is, guys, remember this is getting like looking like this one. We will make it beautiful using async await and promises. But let's see some basic promises first. So here I will say here promise basic.js to how to create promise first of all. So let's define a function. Let's say f1 is a function here. And I want, when I call this f1 function, a promise object should be returned. Okay, so that's why like it's just a special object. Okay, it's just a JavaScript object. Promise is just a special JavaScript object. So I want, when I call this f1 function, one promise p1 should be returned from this promise. So how to create it? So let's write the code. So I will say here promise 1 equal to this is a syntax, guys. You will make an object of this new promise. There will be a function inside that. You can define arrow function also. That's fine, totally fine. I'm just writing here and the normal thing. The resolve will be there, rejected will be there. The 2 arguments will be there, guys, in this. So this is your constructor. So you are actually passing a function to this promise class. So here what you will do, here you will say, let's say, just resolve it. You're just resolving, or let's do one thing. You will resolve after, let's say, 2 seconds. I will write a message, or do not write a message. You will just resolve this, and with what message? So any value you can give it. So here I will just say, I will just say my name here, Harshit. I'm just resolving this promise with my name. And if you have created the promise, now you can return it. So I will return here, return promise 1. You have written it. Now let's try to print what is inside this P1 here. I'm guys printing here P1. I will call this F1 function first. So this F1 function will return me a promise object, and I'm printing it here. Let's see what this P1 will say. If you guys run it here, it's saying guys in the pending state. And it's actually true also, because this promises object is returned, but it's the resolve value. Okay, I will just define here 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, the resolve value from from this promise guys will actually be resolved after 2 seconds. And here we are executing immediately, right? You remember set timeout. If you have written set timeout, it will not wait. So it will be resolving the value, but after 2 seconds. And that's why it's here, it's saying pending state. But how to get the resolve value? So there's something called as guys, now let's learn how you can consume a promise. So if you want to consume a promise, there's something called as guys dot then. You will write this syntax here. You can write again the callback also. So for just a simplicity, I'm writing this normal function value. And now if you print this value, now this dot then has a function again here. This dot then will be executed only when your promises is resolved. Only when your promises is resolved. Okay. Now let's try to run this code here. You guys can see after 2 seconds, this is getting printed, Harshit, because here you have written dot then. So this is how guys you will consume a promise. Consume a promise. Here how you will consume a promise, and this is how you will create a promise. This is how guys you will create a promise, and here this is how you will consume a promise. This should be clear. Okay. Now the very interesting thing is here. Dot then also returns you a promise. Okay, this function will also return you a promise. This is very important. Let's try to just console.x here. If you try to console.log, as I said, this function will also return you a promise. If you try to just print it here x, what will happen? See here. If I print guys, again this is saying promises. This line is for this one here. Okay, this line is for this line. Okay, so now it's again saying here promises is pending, because here also you haven't resolved the promise. And if you want to get the value of this promises consume value, what you can do is you can write again here dot x dot then, and you can define a function here. You can write here, let's say, and let's pass a value here. Let's pass a value, and if you run this value here, you will now. So this will return a promise, and now you are doing x dot then. Let's try to run this code now. You will be very like it can be a surprise for you. So now it's printing guys. This value is printing. This undefined is for this one here. This is printing your undefined here. Okay, and this is printing here Harshit. Why this is printing undefined? Because guys here if you are returning a promise, but you are not returning anything. So from this function, this whole code dot then, you are not actually returning something. So let's try to return something. Here I will say what? I will say here, let's say, I will say here India. Okay, now let's try to run this code again. If you guys run this code, it will wait for 2 seconds to execute this piece of code. Harshit is there, and now here the India, because whatever from here you will pass, this will be the resolve value for this x. Okay, this thing should be clear. Now there's a shorthand code for all, right? Like you are writing here, you are keeping in the x, then you are doing x dot then and all. There's a shorthand code also, guys. If you want to do in single line, what you can do is you can just remove it here. You can write here only dot then, and you assign a function here, and you will get this here. Let's say value will be there. And if you now write here value, okay, this is a shorthand for guys dot then. So here actually it's a chaining of dot then. If you run this code, you will see here it's waiting. Here the code, Harshit is getting printed and India is also getting printed. So this is also, guys, it's a shorthand to write the promises. Now if you are good with the promise, like now you can create a promise, then you can consume a promise. Now let's see this exact code, how you will be writing the code in the here. So I will write here, I will write this file. And I will write here, let's say for song.js. Okay, I will call the every code from here. I will just paste it here. And now I will do something like, first of all, let me remove all the code from here. I want to create a promise. Okay, I want to create a promise. So here what I will say here is, I will just crop. Okay, I just want to first of all create a promise. So here I will delete all this thing here. I will say I can return a promise also like this one here. So I will just say here return new promise, and here I will say a function. Let me define this time arrow function only. And here you will pass this resolve comma reject, and in this function you will write this code here, or not here, I mean like after in the set timeout. In the function of set timeout, you will write, let's say after 2 seconds. Okay, now let's see what I have written. Let's do not focus on this function. I will also change this function, but let's say see here what I'm doing. Now I will not take this as callback and all. What here I will do is I will return a future value. I will return a promise. Okay. So here what I'm doing here is downloading song is started. Now I'm returning this one here, right? You can just delete it here. You can pick, let's say here you can say P1 is there and you can assign it here, and then you can pass this P1. This is also fine. Okay, this is also fine. This is also fine. You have just assigned to a variable and now you are passing this P1. So over here what I have done. So in this promise object, I have a set timeout. This will run after 2 seconds. It will say song is downloaded. This song is this one. And then let's try to, instead of this callback, what here I will do is I will now resolve this as song. Okay, I'm now resolving this value as a song. Okay. Now the same thing, guys, here also I will do for this one here. I will, first of all, I will get these things cut. I will do this one here. I will say here again, let P2 equal to new promise. I will say here in the callback, sorry, arrow key, I will define it here and not like this. I will do here in the set timeout. I will define a function, and I will say here after 2 seconds again. Okay, and in this function I will pass this function here. So see here again here. Okay, I will not call this callback. Callback will not be there. I will resolve a promise. So cut this here. I will delete it here. I will say here resolve and with this value. So for write to file also I have written the promise, and here I have created a promise. So let's return in this third line. I will say here, let's say return P2 is there. Now you are writing to file started, then you have created a promise. This promise will again, it will be executed after 2 seconds, and this here you are returning. Let's try to configure this piece of code also. So here what we are doing. So here I will just cut this piece of code first. I will delete it. Okay, why I'm deleting it? I can just make it here cut. I can write here P3 equal to new promise. It will be, let's say here it will be there, and in the promise object we need to pass reject and resolve. Okay, and I can pass this one here, and set amount is there. And now what I will do here is or uploading is done. Now you can, okay, now this is done. Now even you can just resolve something, or you can resolve with this URL. Okay, now let me repeat it every function again. So in this download function, guys, what I have done is I have created a promise. So this is a promise creation. So I can write a comment here as well. Create a promise. Okay, and here I am returning a promise. Here I am returning a promise. Okay, this is done. So how I'm creating a promise? So here I have created a promise. In the promise object, I have given a callback here. Okay, callback, and it's a callback, and in this function I have defined this set timeout. This set timeout will be executed after 2 seconds, and this will say what? So whatever you have given the song name, it will be this song name console.log, this one here, and resolve with this song name. So this is the, like, let's say excuses.mp3. This is the first function. In the write to file, I have written this console.log writing to file started. Then I have created a promise, and this promise will be executed after 2 seconds. And first of all, it will gather this like excuses.mp3.txt. Then it will say writing to file completed, this song file name, and then it will resolve this after 2 seconds. Now here you have written this promise. Now in this third function, guys, again I have written here uploading to drive started, and P3 is started, and now you can even return this P3 here. P3 is returned. In here also I have written this resolve new promises created. Here you have all this. Now let's try to, promises is created and all, let's try to consume the promise. How you will consume the promise? So first of all, I will call this function. I will write it here, download function, and let's pass something. So I will say here excuses. Okay, now this is done. Now if you can see this download function here, it will actually return you a promise. Okay, it will return you a promise. So you can keep here, let's say in X, and do, let's say, you can do here, if you keep in X and you want to get this resolve value, because once you get the resolve value, then only you will write to file. Okay, so I can do this one here. I can write it here like X dot then, and I can define a function. I think this function will take up the resolve value. And now I can call this write to file with this value. Okay, now this is done. Now this write to file will also only, let's try to run this function here. I will clear all these things here. Okay, if I run it again, downloading started, downloading completed, song is excuses.mp3, and now it's saying writing to file started, and writing to file completed excuses.mp3, and now it's saying some error. What is resolve is not defined. Where is the resolve? Resolve. Okay, here I have missed the resolve. So let's write here resolve and reject. Now let's try to run it again. If we see here, downloading started, downloading completed song excuses.thing, and for writing to file started, and writing to file is completed excuses.mp3. Now again, this write to file will also return me a promise. So to how to get that? So I can get in, let's say, let y equal to this one here. And now you can do this one here. Let's say let y dot, and then you can pass a function, and you can do this as value. You can do this one here. And inside that, what you can do is you can call this upload value, and you will pass this value. So now what will be this value? So this value will be actually whatever you have written in the y. So y is what? So you are returning a promise in the write to file also, right? So if you open this write to file, this is a resolve value. So this is the song file name. So song file name will be excuses.mp3.txt. So right now you are passing this value. So now if you run this code here, you will say here downloading file started, downloading completed, writing to file started, writing to file completed, and drive to upload to drive started, and this is the drive completed, right? These all things are working fine. But there's again problem here, guys. The problem is again the promise hell. Now the problem is, guys, now the promise hell. If you see here, so right now you are doing the nested thing. Let's see, guys, again, you just have two things, right? Upload to drive also resolve something, right? Upload to resolve also return you a promise. So you can accept here, let's say Z, and you can do, let's say, Z dot then, and then you can define a function. You can do here, let's say, write, let's say, only here value, and do not call anything because we do not have any function, but you can write here like your drive link is this value. Okay, this thing is there. But you guys see here again, the pyramid structure is again getting into it. Promises, actually, guys, people think like promise will help you to avoid the promise hell and all, right? but this will again not will help you. There's another syntax to write, like we are writing inside this all one promise. What you can do instead of this one is, if you remember guys here, you can delete all the code from here. Okay, I can keep the code, there's no problem here. I can just comment out all the code here. I can, okay, let me check the, I guess my internet is really bad today. Sorry for that. But yeah. So I can comment out this code here. And now instead of doing all these things here, and I can comment out even this code here also. Instead of the beta syntax for that, what is beta syntax? So beta syntax would be this one here. The beta syntax will be, you will call this download function, you will pass a function, let's say excuses, and here only you will do this dot then. This is also valid. Okay, this is a dot then chaining, and here what you will do here, it will accept a value. You will call this write to file. This will also return you, you will pass your value, and if this will also return you a dot, then you will do this one here. You will pass this value. You will do this one here, and you will again call this upload to drive function here now. Okay, this is somehow like better code, I would say. This is actually not like this one here. Now it's very good. If you now run this code here, you guys can see you will get the same output. I will stop it here. I will clear all this code and run it again. Downloading started. Downloading completed song.mp3. Writing to file started. Writing to file completed, and this is your start uploading started. Now uploading. This is somehow the better code, I would say. Like here in the 4 line only you are doing the thing, and this is less complex also. But again, it's not that simple. Okay, it's not that simple, because here also you are doing multiple dot then chaining and all. Let's suppose like you have 10 or 20 promises written from a function, then again do the next thing, then return a next thing. Let's assume like you are building a something like food delivery. So you will place order for that function. You will again do the payment, then prepare will be food will be preparing. All this series of things you will be working on, right? So there also you will see the promise hell something. Okay, generally people do not talk about promise hell, but there's something called as promise hell also. Okay, this is the hell guys. Okay, now you will keep on doing the dot then dot then dot then, and it will also make a kind of chain. Okay, this will also make a pyramid chain, pyramid structure. So what is the solution now? If you go on my slide now, so this is the promise hell. Okay, actually I do not created a slide for promise hell, but yeah, there's something called promise hell also. Do not forget. People often do not talk about promise hell, but there's, if you work on big projects and all, you will see a problem of promise hell also. If you have 30 functions, okay. So one of the project which are like the last month, or not last month, April, in the month of April I was working on, there was 45 chaining of dot then. There was 45 promises call one after one, one after one, and now one after one. So this is also not a good thing. Okay, yeah, now you are doing like what you are doing, like it's not very, it's also very hard to understand. Actually you can call that as hell also. Okay, if you are able to understand, you will not call it hell. Okay, but yeah, this is a kind of hell structure. It's a dirty structure, dirty code. So what is the now solution? So solution is guys async await. Okay, this async await actually introduced in ES6, I guess 2015 or 16, I guess 15, I guess. So this async await was introduced in 15 or 16, 2015 or 16. This is guys literally a masterpiece. Okay, this is literally masterpiece. This is, that's why I have made in the golden thing, right? So if you have watched the recording of my this last lecture, like when I was creating REST APIs and all, there only I have used async await, because this is very easy to use. Let's see how it is easy to use. You will be now like feeling like you are just doing the simple things, like it's just a normal function call. But before writing this async await, I want to do 2 things. Thing is async, and second thing is await here. Let's see what is async and await. So this is very, very important. 3 lines are there. So async await simplifies the asynchronous programming by making it more like a synchronous code. So if you guys see here, this is like now it's looking like literally hell, and this is like, this is also looking literally hell, and these are very confusing, like when is when called, what will return, then what will happen, then all these things. So this is actually very bad code, right? And this is asynchronous. That's why we are doing all these things. Now, important part here is how you are going to, how async await actually simplifies your asynchronous programming by making it more like synchronous code. Okay. Okay. We will see this thing here. But most important point here, just a 1 second, just a 1 second. Okay. So the most important point here, guys, is the second point. There's a something called as async keyword, and there's something called as await keyword. So async keyword, you will be going to pick this async keyword before the function name. So let me write here the first of all this normal async await function. So I will create here, let's say async await basic.js. So let me write a function here. I will say here f1 function, and I want, if I want to make, let's write here, let's say only console.line, and I will say here start. And when I call this function here, if I call this function, this will be getting called and this will reflect my start. If I want to make this function as async, what I will do here is I will just place a keyword call as async here. That's it. Now this function will be, guys, asynchronous function. Okay, this function will be asynchronous function. Now if you run it, you will see no difference at all. But yeah, this function is now asynchronous. This is how, guys, you will make any function asynchronous, just putting the value, a keyword async, just before the function keyword. Now, second point is await keyword can only be used within a async function. This is very, very, very important. Await keyword. So when you will use await keyword, when not, I will tell you. But await keyword can only be used within a async function. So inside, guys, async function, right now, this is your async function. So you can use await keyword only inside this async function. Now, after like 2018, you can use await like after this import like module 18 or 19, I guess. You can use await outside the async function also, but you can consider this is a completely separate discussion. But if you want to use await keyword, let's try to use inside this async only, async function only. Let's try to read the second thing. We can use await keyword. Now, guys, let's understand, okay, where to use await keyword. So await keyword you will be using inside this async function. Now, when to use? So we can use await keyword to pause the execution of function until a promise is resolved or rejected. This is the very, very important point here. So we will be using await keyword to get the resolve value, to get a pause for the promise to resolve that value. So let me define a promise here. I will write here in a function. Let me create a function here. Let P1 is the function. And then this function will do what? So this will create a, let's say, promise here. So I will say here new promise. I will pass a function here. I will say here, let's say resolve. You can write here RES or reject, whatever the variable name you can write it here. I can pass here resolve, and I can pass, let's say India only. Okay. Now if you want, and let's return this function here, this promise here P1 is returned. Now if you see this P1 function, let's say this is your let's write here promise is obj. Okay. Now if you guys see this function here, this P1 function, this P1 function will actually return your promise object. Now where to use await? So you can write inside here. So let's write here await. Now when you use await, so this is the point here, await will be used to pause the execution of function until a promise is resolved. So here I will say, guys, P1 and dot await dot P1, this function call. So actually this will return a promise object, right? This will return a when you call this P1 function, this will be returning a promise object. So that's why you are writing this P1 object. Now let's try to print it here. Let's say end here. And let's try to print just end here. And let's make it here. And let's write this one here only. Yeah. Let's try to guys run this code here. If you run this code, start and end is getting printed very fast. So let's resolve this after 2 seconds. Here I will say I will resolve this after, let's say, 3 seconds, right? Very long. After 3 seconds, I'm resolving this function. If you now call this function, guys, what will happen? See here, start is getting printed. It's waited for 3 seconds and then only it's printed here end. It means when you write here await, it will wait for this promise to resolve. Then only it will execute other piece of code. Okay. It will wait for promise to resolve. Then only it will write the code, pause the execution. If I just do this again here, because see here, start is getting printed. Now it is waiting and then it's printing here in, because it's waiting in the line number 13 to pause to get all the things. Now, if you want to get what is the resolve value, so what you will do, you will just write here, let's say x equal to. So this await p1 will actually return you a resolve value. This will return you a resolve value. Now, if you print here x, this will print here what is the resolve value. So you are resolving this promise with India. So this will be a start and then wait for 3 seconds and then India and then India is printed here, right? You can see here. It will wait for 3 seconds and then it will get the value India and then it will print here India and then Ind will be printed here. So this is like promises. Okay, this is async await. Now how this will help you? So this will help you like a gem. Okay, why I'm saying it will help you in a gem. So let's see now that code. So I will say here async await song.js. Okay. So await will use to pause and to take a pause for the promises. So here what I will do, guys, is I will just copy all the promises code. I will just paste it here in the async await. See here, this code is I have pasted the same code, like this all function will return me promise and all. But right now it will be super duper easy. So what here I will do, I will just define a function. Let's say f1 function will be there. I will do here a function keyword. Now here, okay, I will call this f1 function. I will pass a function name, let's say excuses. Okay, now this will take to this song here. Now guys, here what I will do here is I will call this download function. I will call this download function and I will pass this song name. But because this download function will return me a promise, you can see here returning a promise. So I will put here await. Okay. Wait, it will be there. Now, if you know, like if you want to get this resolve value, so I will keep in a variable, let's say here song equal to this one here. You can pass like song name and let's change it to song name here. This would be song only. Now this is getting printed here. This you are getting it here. Now after when you have get the song, what you need to do, you need to call this write to file. So we will again write await, because this write to file will also return you a promise here p2. So we'll write here await and you will write this write to file. You will pass this song and this write to file will also return you a resolve value. See here resolve value on line number 24. So you will get this here also. Let's say here song file name equal to this one here. Now again, after this one here, you need to upload the file. So you will say here upload the file and you will pass this song to file name. But again, this upload to file one will be returning a promise. So let's try to print it here await. And this upload will also return you a resolve value. So let's take in the another variable. Let's say here, let's say Z, or let's say here URL equal to this one here. Now let's try to run this function, guys, here now. See here. You are running downloading started, downloading completed, saw excuses.mp3, writing to file started, writing to file completed, and uploading to drive started and uploading to drive completed, and this is your URL. So guys, this is working completely fine. Okay, this is working completely fine. And now you can see, guys, here we are just doing kind of synchronous code. Okay, it's looking like a synchronous code, but actually it's not a synchronous code, but yeah, it's looking more of the synchronous code. Now, if you compare this code with guys, this callback here. See, in the function call, you are passing a function, then again here in the function you are passing a function, and here also you are passing a function. So this can be go beyond. Okay, if you have, let's say, 10-20 functions, so you will be keep on calling, and this will be looking more like a synchronous a hell. So what here I will do is I will just prepare, let's say, so many function. I will say here, let's say, function A. I will just here, let's say, function B, for a to actually show you the hell. I will write here so many function, and they will have nothing, and they will contain a call. This will, I want to call this here. I want to call this callback here also. Callback will be there. Callback will be there. Callback will be there. Now let's see here. Now here what I will do here is I want to call this callback from here. So I will call this callback. Call this callback, and if you call this callback from this upload to drive, you will come to here and you will call this A here. Now see here. Now this will be called here, and now when you call this A here, let's call the next callback. So here also you will define a function, and you will write here, let's say, B call. Okay, you are doing this one here. Now if you come to this B1 here, let's call the next callback. You will doing all these things here. Now you can define a function again here. Okay, you will call a callback here. No, I mean C here. See, now it's getting hell, guys. See, do you see this is getting now the kind of pyramid structure? Here also you can pass a function, and you will say next callback. So now do you see, like, this is getting hell actually. On every function you are creating another function inside, nested. So this would be really looking ugly. What here you can do instead of this? Okay, so in promises also it will be looking exactly hell. In promises also, if you keep on doing all these things, it will be looking as a hell. But here in the async await, what you can do here is I will copy this all function from here. Let's copy this function here and let's do it here. Okay, right now we are calling functions, so you need to write here a promise resolve, so that you will write it here. I will just cut here. I will just write here, let's say, I will just copy this. I can do this one here also. Promise dot resolve, and resolve is something, let's say here A only. I will do this one here. Let's copy this one here. B here. Okay, let's copy this one here. Let's see here. Okay, and there will no callback, and all this thing. Now if you want to call this A function, what will do? You will be keep on calling like a normal function. You will call here A function. Now you'll call this as B function. You will call here, let's say, as a C function. Okay, this is the normal function. That how it works is you will be looking like, okay, you will return this here, return. Okay, you will be returning like this one here, guys, right? This is how you will do, and it will be looking more of the simple thing. If you compare to the callback, see, this is now looking hell, but this is you can return a new promise, you can create you can write your syntax, right? You know how to write, and I can write for you. For just an example, I can write here new promise function will be there, and you will say here resolve comma reject will be there, and you will just resolve this here. Let's say A only. Now you can just copy this code here. You can pass it here. You can pass it here. Now all these things are there. Let's write it here B. Let's write it here C. And now they are actually resolving something. So let's grab in some value. So let's say here, let's see A equal to this one here. Let's B equal to this one here, and let's C equal to this one here. Okay, A is there. Now if you run this code here, guys, what will happen? Let's try to run this code here. You guys will see here. Uploading to file is started, uploading to this is done. This is also done. Now uploading to started and uploading to son. Okay, now you have here A cannot be initialized. Where the A? Do okay, I got it. So A1, let's say here B1, and let's say here C1. Downloading is started, downloading is completed, writing to file is started, downloading is done, and now here uploading to run. And all this function, this A and B, in A, B, and C, in this functions we do not have any console log line. That's why it's not like it's not consoling. But yeah, this is working fine, and this is more looking like a normal function call. The key things to take here is await keyword you will be only placing inside async function, and await is used to pause for promise to resolve or reject. Promise can be resolved also, and promise can be rejected also. You know how to reject, right? Instead of resolve, you can say reject. But if you want to reject a promise, you will be writing a reject here. Let me show you here. I will come to here. I will just make a file, another file here. 7 promise dot reject .js. I will call, first of all, I will copy all the code. I will come to here. Instead of guys resolving, you can reject with something. I will reject here. Okay, we will reject here, and you will say something. Let's say you will say just error error at line 5. You just say here error at line 1. When you run this function, and let me remove all the piece of code from now here. Okay, I will be just returning here. Let's say all these things are done. Run there. You are taking this as P1. Or let's do one thing here. Let's only write inside this F1 only. So I will do here. Since you know how to consume now, so I can write a better syntax now. I will write this like this one here. So you will call F1 function, and then here you have guys written dot then, and you are consoling what is the value. But here guys, pay attention. Here you are not resolving it. Here you are rejecting it. Now let's try to run this code. If you guys run this code, okay, let me write it again here. Let's make it, let's say only 1 second. Okay, if you guys run it again here, you will see here there's an error occurred, and it's saying the promise is rejection and unhandled promise rejection and all this error. So dot then will not work. So what you need to do is you need to do this catch. So you will say here as a value. You will say here as, let's say, value. Now if you run this function, what will happen? If let's start running it, see here, now it's printing here error at line number 5. So to handle the rejection case of your promises, you will be writing here dot catch. Okay, this thing should be clear. I just wanted to tell you very interesting thing in the async await. Async await, I just wanted to tell you one thing, which is again very good for your interview purpose. Someone can ask you, okay, you are calling this F1 function and you have called it here. So what async function returns you? So this function, this async function will return you what? This is guys interview question. So in a normal function, if I create a file and if I show you here, I will say here 8 normal.js. If we create a function, let's say F1 function, and let's say here start. Okay. Now if you call this F1 function, and let's see what this function returns. Okay, if you are not returning anything, here I have not written anything. Let's see what it will return by default. If you print here X guys, you will see here it will print it here undefined. See here, it's printing here undefined. So normal function, in normal function, if you do not return anything, it will return you undefined. But in case of async await, what it will return? In case of async await, what it will return? So let's try to see this one here. I will say here X equal to this one, and I will now print this X here. Okay, I will print it X here. Okay, and for this one here, I can say here what is at line number 72. Or do one thing here. Do not do it here. Do not do it here. In the normal async await here we can see. So here what I can do is I can skip all the things are here as of now. I can just do here a start and end. Okay, and now let's see here. Here also we have async function. Now let's see what this async function will return you in general. And let's try to print here X. Okay, you will be very surprised to know. And guys, in interview, these things people ask you, what will return in case of your if you're not returning anything from your async await. If you guys run this function here, see this async function actually returns you async function will again return you a promise. So this thing is very, very important in interview. Anyone can ask you, in case if you are not returning anything from async function, what it will return? So it will return you a promise object. Let's try to return it from any value here. And promise object will be, guys, here undefined. Now if you pass here something, let's pass here my name Harshit only. If you pass here, guys, now promise will be returned with the resolve value called as Harshit. So if you want to get this Harshit x, what you will do? You will just write here dot then again, because dot then will be used to get your what? To get your resolve value, get a promise resolve value. So if you now write here, see x will f1 will return you a promise, and now you're doing x dot then. So this will be now Harshit printed, because dot then will be used to get your resolve value from promise object. If you run this function here, start and in this Harshit is getting printed. So if I just conclude all, guys, this one here, so async await actually simplifies your things very nicely. And in any project, if you see like, okay, and if you're going for React.js, Node.js, whatever, every place, guys, you will be seeing this async await very often. This async await is very important, and async await you will see. Okay, so this is the thing, guys, which I wanted to discuss with you. So that's it from my side. Like I have covered whatever I was planning to cover. Like I was planning to cover this async await in a very good, like with the normal example and all. But yeah, that's it from my side, guys. If you have anything, like if you want to ask something, you guys can of course comment out what you need to ask. And if you want to really want to learn this async await, and if you want to really want to learn this promises, callbacks and all, you must try different examples, right? You try different examples, callbacks example, promises example, and let's see how it behaves. Because learning promises, callbacks, and this async await will be very important for you in terms of your interview. If you're going for interview, I can bet you 80% question will be coming from this promises, callback, and async await only. So try to learn all these things in very nicely format. Do your experiment. Do try to dig out, okay, what will happen, what if, see, like here I showed you, like, okay, what will happen if you return anything from async function. So all these things, guys, you need to experiment on yourself. Okay, this is the thing I wanted to cover. So let me stop the recording. No, not recording, I mean. So if I go back, guys, that's it from my side. This is my Harshit Raj. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can just write it like Harshit71. You will be getting my contact and all. So yeah, that's it from my side, guys. Hope you enjoy the session. If you enjoy the session, do like it, comment it if you have anything. And let's meet in another workshop. Thank you, guys. Bye. Happy weekend.